sure that it's really an hour?
Recording is on.
Do people mind if it drifts over? Is it a bad
do you want
thing?
to?
I don't
Do you
mind.
want to? Do you want to? Were you trying to get to a grand climax here about the ripeness of all? So you wanted to smooth it ahead a little bit?
Yeah, I wanted to just say one more thing, and that's basically to groups like XR, if anybody there watches stuff like this. It's far more important than getting some result or getting, the government to do something. That is for people within XR to develop. So it's relentlessly individualistic and full of identity. That's why it looks so colorful. Everybody comes to express themselves. And I think these movements would do far better teaching people to get over the inertia, to do things like I was doing with my kids on stepping on the grass, is not to do a Gandhi thing where you get caught or arrested. Is you don't get arrested. You do things that are against the system, against the rules, and you get away with it. And you seem to get away with it. So that the government and the authoritarians are seen to not have the power that they say. So the idea is to cast doubt on the social contract. Basically, it's a protection racket, and it's a paper tiger because the government can't really protect you. The police can't really protect you. The government can't protect you from climate change, and they would have to deindustrialize, and they can't do that. They're just there to keep the economy going and ramp it up to keep the status quo. So you're asking them to change the status quo, and that's the one thing. It's never going to happen. But you can make progress in all sorts of ways with the individual members in the movement. And that's to show them that basically liberate them and liberate them from the idea that the government is their parents, that the government can protect you. So you can show very quickly how weak the government is by doing stuff that the government that you get away with. So these movements would be far better off getting people over their inertia. And the way to do that is to get tiny little micro things, tiny little things that hardly make a difference. And if you were caught for them, it would be a slap on the wrist or a no-no. And to get over that initiation energy, to start doing these kind of micro protests, little things that basically go against the system, and the system would punish you for if they could catch you, but they can't catch you. And once you get into that, you start feeling a little bit of power in yourself. You start feeling a little bit of individuality, growing up and being a little bit riper.
Roger, how it does seem to
ripeness is all that's being grown up. So you were talking about being infantile. They need to teach people how to start growing up, and part of that is getting over this awful rhetoric of, we need to convince the government. Fuck the government, and with sauce on, put KP sauce on a fuck government. The government can't do shit for you. What you need to do is to show your members that the government can't do anything for you, and that'll help liberate them. You're basically getting little toddlers to be free, to grow up and be free, and that's what you need to be doing.
But that's what you're saying is ties into the slave mentality again. Like it seems like these movements, all of them, are based on maintaining that slave mentality into every speech, every action, not questioning at all that situation, and yes, making people die as slaves, live as slaves. So
the very in South Africa, we knew the writing was on the wall because the ANC taught people not to be childish, and not to be that deferent, offending, stuff. And then the minute black people started talking back as equals, we knew we were fucked. That's all it took. That was the end of apartheid. It took a lot to get them to do that, but that was the end of the apartheid. When a black person spoke to you equally, saying, you're no better than me, and that was in their tone of voice, we knew we were done. Now that's what you need that's what XR is demanding from climate change, is when they talk to somebody, not as an individual, or as basically say, as somebody that does not need the government, say, look, this is the deal. Either we deindustrialize or we do it for you. That's the deal. The minute you do that, the psychopaths know they're done. But until you can while you're still moaning to the government and doing banner drops and pleading with them, the government knows that everything's still tight. While you're still being non-violent, you're still following the rules, everything, they know they don't have to worry about anything. They know that the house is secure. They go to bed at night, got the cameras on, yeah, they sleep tight. If the minute that Boris Johnson goes to bed and he has a sleepless night because he doesn't know he can get through the night without people basically punishing him for how he conducts himself, him and his class conduct himself, then you're free. That's really the end of the crisis, the climate change crisis, the environmental crisis. But while they go to bed secure, basically, you're never going to see an end to it. And they're always going to go to bed secure as long as you're petitioning them. When you stop petitioning them, then they worry.
There seems to be a shift in the way Roger Hallam's talking, and also, I mean, things like what you've noticed, which is, where they say, oh, well, if people are going to accuse XR of being a terrorist organization, I mean, this is their big moment. If they're going to be classified as terrorists anyway, they might as well live up to their name. But they're probably going to miss their cue.
Yeah, you see, this is the government threatening the stick. So this is how it works with the slave mentality. They don't get the whip out. They say, you know where the whip is, we're going to get the whip out and stuff like that. And they go, no, don't say we terrorists. It's like completely the wrong reaction. What spokesman in XR should be saying is, you want to call us terrorists? Call us fucking terrorists. But while you're at it, if we're going to be hung for a sheep as a lamb, we're going to be terrorists. You make us terrorists then. Call us terrorists and we'll be terrorists. You play it how you like. But you fucking going to do this. And basically, well, that would send electric shocks to the thing. But they don't. They're like, oh, we're so sorry. Oh, this is ridiculous. And they have all these things saying you can't call XR a terrorist organization. Call it a fucking terrorist organization. It doesn't matter what they call you. They don't behave any different. It's just an empty words to scare you. All they're doing is saying, you'll be a terrorist. Oh, I'm so scared. Well, what does it mean if they call you a fucking terrorist? Nothing changes. The surveillance doesn't change. The state doesn't change.
No.
Infiltration doesn't change. Nothing fucking changes. Basically,
they would be much more efficient if they said, "Oh, we got
a terrorist." They can't send you to jail for the rest of your life just because they called the organization a terrorist and you belong to it, right? They still have to get in front of a court of law and prosecute you for something you did. Well, if you do stuff that they can't catch you for, hello.
Yeah, that's it.
I was saying they should go to the ground. That would be the best thing. They go, okay, bye, we're not there anymore. And that's when Boris Johnson starts to have insomnia, when there's no more XR on the street. Where are they? Do you know?
If they turn in like the Soviet Union was complete. Well, Stalin and stuff. All these psychopaths are paranoid. So you can play on that paranoia by doing wrecking. If you basically go underground and they know you there, the problem is everything that goes wrong, they don't know whether it was somebody deliberately doing it or whether it was an accident. And the more they knuckle down, the more they put pressure, the more they threaten to take out the whip, the more it aids you. So the wreckers were the most dangerous thing for the Soviet Union, because they never knew whether it was their own incompetence, whether it was natural incompetence, whether it was just bad luck, or everything combined. And the more they got into this quagmire, eventually you didn't have to be a wrecker. You just had to sit and watch because they were so paranoid that they did the work for the wrecking for you. But That's kind of an advanced stage. We've got to start slow, where people still believe in the system. They still believe in the plantation. They think the plantation can be reformed, and we can have a nice Auschwitz. We're going to have an Auschwitz where not so many people are killed, and those that do kind of deserve it. That's what the liberals want. Liberals don't want freedom. The liberals don't even want to close down Auschwitz. They just want Auschwitz with a smile on its face, and just the right people, the deserving people, go to the gas chambers. Not everybody, and not people based on their identity, just on what they do. So if they're evildoers, they go to the gas chambers. But we don't. No way do we stop the gas chambers. No way do we stop basically the capo system or anything about the death camp. We want this labor camp, and so they can only get on to that advanced stuff by like wrecking when they've decided, okay, Auschwitz has to close down. We're living in Auschwitz and it needs to close down. That's step one. Step two is then, how do you fight Auschwitz? A very low-key wrecking campaign, very soft, but escalating. And do it as a lone wolf. They can't catch you as a lone wolf.
I think that XR I'm just wondering at this stage whether XR are actually bringing this situation about without realizing what they're doing, because they've gone far enough now that they're being accused of being terrorists. Now, once that kind of momentum of accusation starts, it's going to build momentum because it's good fun for the media anyway. And I think, I mean, if you go on. Did you want to say something?
I think this is the end of XR. I mean, XR's finished. It's going to have as much impact as the Rotary Club. There's basically, you might as well pray for climate change, or basically sacrifice a goat to Poseidon. You're going to do as much as XR is going to do. So
no.
All I'm talking to is the remnants of XR.
Yeah, that's what I mean.
I'm just talking to people that might be lone wolves.
Is it in every other instance where governments, sort of mainstream society, have demonized something that really wasn't demon worthy in the first place, it ends up turning it into the monster that didn't exist. In other words, it's brought into existence by I mean, in this instance with XR, by saying, you're now a terrorist organization, it's eventually going to actually make terrorists out of people, because they're
never going to make XR into a terrorist
not
organization.
XR, but I think it will fragment into the individual actors like you're talking about, and that they're actually accelerating.
Yeah, but those guys are foolish to label themselves or name themselves. But XR is never, ever going to be labeled a terrorist organization, because basically they just wagging a finger saying, "Oh, you naughty children, you better get in line." And then, of course, they got in line. So they don't need to make them a terrorist, and they never will, because it's an organization of liberals. And the liberals, as liberals, they are pro-capitalism even more than the psychopaths in charge of us. So the liberals will not turn against capitalism. Basically, the bourgeois is really the reason why there's business as usual. So they saying, "Oh, you want to change business as usual?" Well, to what? It's just a new business as usual. It's just a green business as usual. It basically, with a logo and a smiley face. And basically, they don't really want anything to change. They still want to drive. They still want the same life. They still want holidays. Nobody wants to change. And so business as usual is from liberalism. Everyone in XR, I've never really met anybody that's not a liberal. And they're pro-capitalist because, they're basically, that's a liberal thing. Liberals are house slaves. Being pro-capitalist means being pro the plantation. And the house slaves are pro the plantation. They side with the plantation owners. and then all the field slaves can burn and loot and whatever. They'll always try and be on, you know, on the inside of the wagons when they circle them. When the psychopaths circle the wagons, the liberals want to be on the inside of that of the lager. They're the last. XO is the last organization to make change. Anyway.
So you think XR is basically finished, and that it's just, you know, we might have to change the name of the sub.
Yeah, it's just a shell of an organization. Yeah, but I mean, you know, I don't think we have to change the name of the sub or anything. We still, yeah, basically, I'm still, in my mind, I'm still trawling them for lone wolves, because the guys are still, you know, people are still there, and basically, a lot of them don't know that it's done. You see, a lot of them can't see it. They just think, oh well, it's COVID, and so not so many people turned out. And it'll take them a lot, you know. At least half of them won't even know that it's finished when it's finished. But some will, the genuine, well, those ones you don't care about anyway. You just care about the genuine ones that are going to actually rebel. And some people that were taking this seriously and weren't just, you know, hey, I get to express my ego out on the streets. Some people were like, fuck, this is serious shit, and we need to do something about it. So hopefully there were some serious people. I don't know where if you tell me where the serious people hang out, I'll instantly decamp to them. But there's they're all babies everywhere. It's like the kindergarten, and then anarchists proper are all, you know, kind of burn and loot, and we got to get off the streets. There's protest on the streets. It's just a mug's game. Just stupid as all hell.
So it comes back to I think something you said a couple of weeks ago, which is that really what you're doing, or what it's all about, is just creating or just dealing with individual rebels. And it was really a matter of the kind of awareness of those individuals, that they're the ones who have got to be awake and on top, and that's the prime thing for them. Just sort of,
and there's also compassion, because you know, the shit is going to hit the fan, and part of the things that I'm doing, I learned from South Africa, is that anticipation is important in terms of softening the blow when it actually happens. So what makes a collapse particularly painful, a collapse that is coming, is that people can't believe that it's happening. If you're on the Titanic and you know early on, if they were good enough to tell you, look, this ship's going down, and they tell you that when, you know, when they know that the ship's going down, you have options. You have time to prepare. You can go through, you know, a whole enlightenment sequence. The problem is that basically people are in denial, shock, and then you take all the shock in one big go, and it's going to be carnage. And they're going to try and manage it, and then we get into the managed extinction, and that's something you really you at least want to have the people around you have a culture of resistance. So it's very important that you know, get over this thing like, well, we could all have a socialist utopia, and so no, collapse is unavoidable, and you can see how they're going totalitarian. You can see the march towards totalitarianism all around the world, and it matters for the people around you to have a culture of resistance, and resistance against a managed extinction. You say, thank you, we'll manage our own extinction. Now, if I was Roger Hallam, I would start, that would be the first foot I'd put forward, is saying, guys, let's be real. PAs, they're never going to happen. It's all bullshit. There's not enough time. 5 to 10 years. What are we going to build solar panels and wind? There's not enough time for this shit. There's not enough time to go nuclear. So you say, like, we're hitting this wall. Now, how do we want to hit the wall? And you say, well, one of the first things you want to do is say, we will manage this extinction on our own. We don't want to do it as toddlers with as babies with mommy and daddy psychopath. That is a horrible. You just go and have a look at Germany. You tell me that you want to live through the collapse of Germany, then carry on the way you are. Just keep the government in charge, be non-violent, play by the rules, and you're in Nazi Germany. You will do the collapse of Berlin. I've been there. I've been to the flak towers where they heard it in tens of thousands of people. You do not want to go through that. You don't want to go through a managed extinction. We're talking about genocides. Basically, there'll be starvation. You don't want to have them managing the food supply, anything like that. So just say, we will Roger Hallam should say, look, we're going to hit the wall. We have to get this culture of saying, we will manage our own extinction. Thanks very much. And the flip side of that is, if there is a chance that we squeak through and they're black swans and things that we never thought about, they're most likely on that road where there's least likelihood of actually surviving and not going extinct, where they're the least black swans of all, is in a managed extinction. If you carry on with the government, it's very predictable how it goes down. So people say, oh, well, it's predictable. Well, I'll go with predictable, except we're talking about the bridge collapsing. We're talking about adding straws on a camel's back till the camel's back breaks. So you don't want predictable. Basically, the kind of predictable it is keep on putting straws on the camel's back and the camel's back will break. It's that kind of predictable. You can't tell when it's going to break, but you know for sure it will at some stage. And that's the kind of predictable you're on. It's not a nice predictable.
Well, there's a kind of...
You're far better off, basically.
Sophie?
There's a kind of rehearsal going on at the moment with the COVID crisis and the way it's managed in the West anyway.
I was going to say that.
There is a kind of managed extinction going on where the frontline workers are forced to stay where they are because they don't want to shut down the economy. And so the people who are going to die, the people who are going to be sick, of course, the weak and the old in the nursing homes, but then it's the frontline people, are the people working in the shops, in the petrol station, on the roads, in the hospitals, and the other people who are privileged staying at home or on their computers or on holidays and not working. And I see that in Ireland. I see that all over Europe. It's that is giving and it's the governments that are organizing that. They are making people guilty of their individual behavior instead of questioning a system that is enabling a virus to spread through travel, industry, tourism, etc. So you have a rehearsal there, a live rehearsal of what can happen.
It's easy to see a scenario where the election is contested and people start getting violent on the streets, and then they have another lockdown and blame it on COVID, where it's really, everybody will know what it really is, and it's basically to keep people off the streets. Well, I think almost we haven't quite exhausted the rightnesses all. But
we'll make a part two, do you think?
Sleep on it and talk about it the next time. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Does anybody feel like we've done the rightnesses, or should we wrap up the Desiderata and decide what we're going to do with it, or?
I mean, Hugh, do you think there's more to say about the rightnesses, or just?
Well, you know me, I could carry on talking about this.
Yeah, I suppose.
I think we should continue it in the beginning next week. Yeah, it's a good topic.
Mm-hmm.
It is, in a way, it encompasses everything, all the others. Really. Yeah. It's kind of, if you get the others right, then this one's a given. Okay, well, maybe we should round it off then.
Okay.
Call that
All right.
work.
All right.
Yeah, sounds good. Okay.
Well,
So,
okay. Thanks then. Thanks
Okay,
you,
guys.
Sophie, Mark, everyone.
Yeah, thanks everybody.
Thanks then.
all right. Thanks.
Okay. We'll
Thanks.
see you next time.
All right.
Yeah.
Good luck.
I'll stop the recording.